On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains.
Coming to you straight from San Diego, California. Let's welcome our host, April Mahoney.
Are you a spiritual person?
Slowly getting there, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get there when you get there, but spirituality is something different for everybody. Sometimes it's rituals, sometimes it's God, sometimes it's incense. You never know. Like me, I love burnt offerings. So what are you doing there today, Gabrielle, in Edmonton, Canada? It's Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
Because Alberta is the Providence, right?
Yep.
See, Brains? I know something. Welcome to On the Edge, where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Brains, we got another super brain here today. She's going to teach us about a secret weapon. Girls, we got a secret weapon. You better learn how to use it. Gabrielle
Chipeur.
From Canada. Welcome her, Brains. There she is. How you doing, baby?
Great. And yourself?
I'm good. I can't complain about nothing. Nothing at all. I'm feeling pretty good. How you doing?
Same here. I always say I could complain, but who would listen?
I would listen to you. I'd be empathetic. That's the kind of chick I am. But tell me what you're doing. Tell my Brains. Introduce yourself.
Hi. Yeah. So I'm Gabrielle Chipeur, and I help mentor creative professionals so that they can grow a profitable and stable business that supports their creativity and helps them grow and live the life that they want.
Well, creativity is a big $25 word. Some people are creative with sound, some are visual, some are audible, some are, I don't know, they have different tricks to the trade. So how do you help people uncover their creativity?
Absolutely. So it's not so much about uncovering your creativity. It's taking someone who's working in a creative field. So someone who's, say, a graphic designer or a web developer or, say, a sound technician or a copywriter. So someone who's in it because they love being creative and doing those creative services, but they might not necessarily know what comes along with it, especially when we're talking about running a business and all of that back end stuff. Like, they came into it because they were passionate about what they wanted to do. And then all of this other baggage kind of came with it, right? So I want to help them kind of sort through that baggage, make it a little bit less heavy, and actually propel them forward in their careers and in their businesses.
Let's talk about a couple things when it comes to imagery. Colors are very powerful. I've had some color therapists on the show. They do their branding, everything by their colors. That should be a representation of who you are. And also consistency. Brains, you got 2 or 3 different logos, 15 different fonts. You're doing too much, but you need to pull that together. So how do you look for that with a craftful eye? How do you sort through that for your clients? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So in my agency, we do a lot of branding work for our clients, and we primarily help health professionals. So fitness coaches, online fitness professionals, and we help them kind of wrangle that branding. And really the key is setting out and taking some time right at the beginning to make a plan when it comes to your brand. Now, there's kind of 2 main parts of a brand. One is like the visuals. So that's things like colors and fonts and logos and all that. But then the other half of your brand is what's behind it. So like, what are you communicating? What does your brand stand for? What are your values? Those kind of things. And they really need to mesh together. And then once you have that brand and it's feeling really strong and good to you and good to the people that you're targeting as well, because you could create the most amazing brand in the world, but if it's not connecting with the people who are your clients, then, well, what good is it, right?
It's no good. It's no good.
It's no good, right?
And you know what else I've just wanted to interject right here is visibility, publicity, and marketing. Braves, they can't find you under the weeds. You have to be out there. You have to be, on all different types of media. Folks still read the newspaper. You know, they still pick up the telephone. They still use email. So you have to use all of that and brush all of this with a broad stroke. How long have you had your agency, Gabrielle?
12 years now.
Wow, that's impressive. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
so I started as a one-woman show in my spare bedroom with my babies on my hip and have slowly grown it ever since. And now we're a team located all around the world, and we help our clients do all of their marketing and their branding, a lot of their online tech stuff and their automations. It's just really a fantastic team to work with.
That is brilliant. That is really brilliant. How'd you get started?
Well, actually, it's a funny story. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I did
really?
did not have an entrepreneurial bone in my body. I grew up, my mom was an entrepreneur and she owned several businesses, and she was a single mom too. So we were all, as children, my sister and I were kind of always shuffled around from nannies to family members, daycares, all of these different childcare services because, my mom was growing a business or working in her business. And, that's kind of the impression that I had as a kid growing up was, if you were a business owner, if you were an entrepreneur, it kind of meant taking away from your family. So I didn't want that. So I went to college and I was like, I want to be a graphic designer. I was really artistic. I've always been creative since I was little. So it's like, I'm going to become a graphic designer and a web designer. And my whole goal was to get a job at another agency and, maybe slowly work my way up to be like a creative director. So that was my whole life goal right there. And then
you had that mapped out at how old were you? Like 15?
I think it was about 19, 20, somewhere around there.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
And so once I graduated, that's what I did. I worked for a couple different companies, always kind of getting better positions, better pay, nicer offices, all that fun stuff. And then when I was 24, I was headhunted by Shell Canada. And they needed someone who had the design and the technical skills that I had. And they were transitioning all of their training and learning from in the classroom to online because they were having all of these younger people coming in and they were expanding globally. So they needed to be able to train their people more effectively. So they headhunted me and I came and worked for them. And one of the caveats of the contract that I had with them was that I had to be an incorporated company to be a contractor. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll have to do it, right? Because there's no way I'm saying no to this contract, right? So I marched my way down to the registry and opened up my business and started working for Shell Canada. And I worked there for about 2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
And then I found out that I was pregnant with my first child.
How'd that happen?
Well, when two people love each other very much.
Very good, very good, very good, very good.
But so I was in a little bit of a lurch because I was a contractor. I didn't have, maternity benefits. I mean, one of the great things about living in Canada is that there's lovely maternity benefits up here if you're an employee.
Right.
But I was a contractor. I was a business owner. I didn't have any of that. So I kind of had a choice. I could either have my son and then, a couple months later, go back to corporate, either go back to Shell or another contract, or I could kind of take this business that had just been kind of sitting there and do something with it. So I chose the latter because I didn't really like that idea of, sending my tiny little baby off to a daycare or somewhere and me going off and working. And that's what I did. So I started working from home. I started gathering more clients that were I was doing graphic design for them. I was doing web design. I started transitioning into creating online courses for them and online learning because of all the experience I had at Shell. And it just kind of snowballed and grew from there.
All right, let's change the subject. Let's get hot and heavy. You are a woman of influence. You are a woman of power. You're a mother. I want you to pour some inspiration into another woman just like you. But just for a second, imagine that she's somebody else, somebody that you don't know. You're looking into the eyes of a stranger. You're looking into their heart. What are you saying to them? What are you saying to the 63,000 people that listen to my show that's going to encourage them to get through this and to be strong and to have a backbone? What would you say to that person?
Well, I think one of the biggest mindset shifts that I had to go through as I was building my business was realizing that I was not a commodity and that the services and the value that I brought was not something that was publicly traded on a market, that I could not put up against something else and get a straight one-to-one comparison. So we're not sugar, someone who produces sugar is kind of locked into the market price of selling their sugar. Maybe they can go a little bit higher if they're premium sugar.
I don't know. It depends on which sugar you're selling.
But overall, when you think about a commodity, you're thinking about what's the market price, right? And I find a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs and especially service providers and creatives, they tend to get caught up into, well, what is everybody else charging? What's acceptable for me to charge for my services? And really that's getting stuck into commodity thinking. But when you really free yourself from that thinking and you realize that, well, I'm more valuable than that. And what I can do is I can add more value. I'm not just creating a website. I'm creating a lead source for this company, like literally leads on tap. How valuable is that? And when you start unlocking that type of thinking, not only does it give you a huge boost in confidence, because you're not looking towards anybody else and what they're doing. You're staying in your lane. You know what you provide, and you know that value that you give. And it really starts to unlock your earning potential as well, because then you can start raising your prices because you're not locked into what you think you should be charging.
Right. And you can always merge into somebody else's lane, brains. Just put your blinker on.
I've done it.
Exactly.
They talk about a pivot. It's a lane change too, right?
Absolutely. That's what you have to do. And you've got to use all your resources. So what do you do for fun now during the COVID with your kids in the house?
Well, I've always been really hobby minded. I've always got something that I do. I paint.
It's expensive though. My gosh.
Well, sometimes you can get some good deals though at Michael's.
I know. So you like to paint?
Yeah, I do a lot of painting. I do watercolor painting. The big purple one behind me, I did that one.
Ooh, that's pretty.
And I also love crocheting. So I just finished up a little blanket. I'm working on a couple
That is such a lost art. And I've been hearing it. One of my other guests, she crocheted me a hat and a scarf. And it really doesn't get that cold here, in San Diego. I absolutely love it. That is a lost art, and it's something very therapeutic about that. You remember needlepoint?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fine art
for a while too.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's something about when you're just working your hands and you're doing something over and over and over again, more methodic, it kind of frees the brain to kind of go on little travels. I get the best ideas when I'm crocheting, and usually I'm throwing the hooks down and grabbing a pen to write them down.
Gabrielle, you say women have a secret weapon. Is that what you were defining for us a little bit earlier? Tell us a little bit more about the secret weapon.
Yeah, so it's not so much about having a secret weapon, it's about being someone else's secret weapon. So as I was growing my business, one of the things that I became very cognizant of was being indispensable to my clients. So, seeing those cross services that I could give them. I'm building you a website. Well, I could also do your email campaigns. I could also do this. I could also do that. So ingraining myself into their business so much so that they wouldn't even think of going anywhere else because I was so valuable for them. And it became their secret weapon. And there's just like a mindset shift of just being completely devoted to your customers and to your clients. And the kind of the opposite of that, I called them hired guns. And those are people who are just there to get in, do the job, get out, get their paycheck. They have no interest in creating a relationship. They're just there for, a tick on the wall. And this type of mentality kind of creates a lot of problems where secret weapons like me or another creative who are really devoted to their clients have to come in and clean up the mess afterwards.
Let me ask you a question. You need to have different components when you're building a team. Okay. And people need to be able to accept other people's egos or lack thereof, or their power, or even staying, in their lane. That's very hard and that's very competitive. Where do you see women with that? Because we can be kind of catty.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. I've always found that all the women that I work with are a lot more, how would you say, accommodating. So that's why the majority of my team is women. Now we're a little bit more attuned to other people's, empaths tend to be women, more
Right.
than men.
Right.
We tend to have a little bit more consideration, and there is a little bit less ego when it comes to women in a team environment. And I think that kind of comes maybe from back in the day in the tribal mentality, where it was the women had to cooperate so much more in order to, make sure that everybody survived.
Right. Right. Because we are Mother Earth. Where is your book? Let us see a copy of your book.
Oh, here it is.
Look at that, Brains. Secret Weapon. Okay. I can't read it because it's the glare. Read the whole cover for me, baby. I see the subcaption down there.
Yeah. So it's attract the best clients, charge what you're worth, and fall in love with your work again.
Fall in love with your work. Now that's a novel idea.
Mm-hmm.
Tell my brains how to get in contact with you, Gabrielle, please.
Absolutely. So you can come visit me at my website, GabrielleChipeur.com, and it's CHIPEUR is how you pronounce my name, or how you spell my name. You can get the book on Amazon. It's in Kindle, it's in paperback. It's got a lovely cover on it if you want to get it in print.
That's good. And you know what? It's still good to curl up with a book. It's going to get wintertime and we all got to be in the house. So we might as well pick up a good book. Thank you so much for being here on The Edge. You're delightful.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so great being here, April.
All right. Brains, go back, please. Listen to other edgy conversations. We got all kind of stuff. I'm trying to visual. We might as well be entertained here on The Edge. Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you.